Well, greetings, everyone. My name is Rick Mannon. I'm an inductee into the Brantford Area Sports Hall of Recognition, and I'm thrilled today to have professional golfer David Hearn with us today. Welcome, David.
Thanks, Rick.
I just kind of a casual talk today. Just want to ask you a few questions about your induction and recent induction into the Sports Hall of Recognition. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much.
First question is, what drew you into the game of, I call it a game, I don't know what you call it, it's work maybe, but golf?
Yeah, I think like everybody as a kid, you try lots of different things, and for whatever reason, when I was 3 years old, I had an affinity for it. I found that I just loved doing it. My dad tells a story of me hitting golf balls out in a field, and I was hitting away, and he finally saw that the grip of the club was a bit shiny, and he came over and noticed that my hands were bleeding. But I didn't want to stop. Like, I was crying. I was like, don't make me stop, don't make me stop. So, I think for whatever reason at a young age, I just loved the game. I loved hitting the balls. I loved practicing chipping and putting. I loved all aspects of it. And as I got older as a kid, I played hockey and I tried other sports, but I think I always knew that golf was my game. For whatever reason, I just loved the sort of individuality of it, and the practice and component of it, and trying to get better. So, I guess that's kind of what drew me to it. My dad cut me down a little golf club, and I just hit for hours.
Wow, that's amazing. 3 years old.
Yes, yeah, and as a father myself, I kind of look at my kids and I see, I've introduced them to tons of things too, and it's interesting to see, the passion level that they have for certain different things. And I obviously had a passion for golf that, was second to none, I guess.
Wow, quite a story. Do you have any mentors that have had an impact on your life or your career? Or?
Yeah, that's a good question, Rick. I think as well as anybody, to achieve at any level, you're going to have a long list of mentors, and I certainly do. My father, who introduced me to the game, obviously, was my first sort of coach and instructor, and guided me through that time. As I went through high school, I had a couple of different coaches and people that I sort of leaned on here in Brantford. But I would say the next major mentor that I had was my university golf coach, Roger Prenslow, when I got to University of Wyoming. That's a big time in your life when you're, turning 18 to 19 and leaving home. And Roger was there for me every step of the way. My good friends Jim and Ange Turnbull here in Brantford, after I went to university, our living situation kind of changed in Brantford. My parents moved out of town, but I wanted to continue to come back to Brantford to practice and play, because I knew this is where I could get better. And they've been a big part of my life, coming back to the city of Brantford, and giving me a place to stay, and guiding me through as I first turned professional. Lots of coaches over the years, and there's so many. There's too many to mention here in one sitting. But I worked with Ralph Bauer and Jeff Leishman the last few years. When I first got on the Corn Ferry Tour, which was then called the Nationwide Tour, I had a chance to room. Obviously, as you're trying to make your way up through the ranks, you don't have a lot of money, so you're always rooming with guys and things like that, and that's just the way you have to do it to get by. And I came across a Canadian, in my opinion, a Canadian legend, Jim Rutledge, and I was rooming with John Mills as well at the time, and Jim sort of became part of our crew of guys, and Rutledge was very instrumental in my golf career in terms of, giving me an example. At the time, he was in his mid to late 40s, but was an amazing player. Even at that time, he won on the Corn Ferry Tour. Right. And got his PGA Tour card. I think he's considered the oldest rookie on the PGA Tour at 48 or 9 years old. Yeah. So pretty remarkable story in his own right. But it's guys like that I look back on that really help guide me. A lot of practice rounds, and it's not so much what they tell you, but you just sort of observe and kind of learn from what they're doing. And
sure.
There's a lot of guys, and I guess I always found, as I was a young player, I tended to gravitate to a lot of the the veteran guys on tour, and I don't know why. It was just sort of the way I was. I think I felt like I could learn the most from being around those guys.
Yeah, terrific. What are some of the highlights? I don't know how you can do this in a couple minutes, but I'm sure there's a lot. But what would you call a highlight in your career?
Yeah, I think, as part of this Hall of Recognition thing came along, and I've been recognized in this way a few times now, I think you start to look back at your career, and when you're in the moment, you have a really hard time with it. But as I'm getting up there in years a little bit for golf, I have had a chance to reflect on it, and there's no doubt in my mind that the highlights of my career will all stem back to chances to represent our country. As a junior player, I had a lot of great achievements, but representing Canada at the World Junior Championships in Japan was the highlight of my junior career.
Yeah.
Again, as an amateur, representing Canada at the Four Nations Cup in Toronto, we were victorious, and I was just talking last week at the Canadian Open to one of my teammates, Danny Saul, who caddies for Corey Connors now. It's amazing those relationships and the bonds that you make in those events. And then as a professional, I've done a lot of really cool things. I've won some tournaments and been a part of a lot of big events and played well a lot of big events. But I think the 2 times that I represented Canada at the World Cup, and then again representing Canada at the Olympic Games in 2016, those are the highlights you look back on, and those are the things that you want to tell your kids more about. And so anytime I've had a chance to represent Canada has most definitely been a highlight for me. And I may have had better individual results or events. The Canadian Open in 2015 obviously comes back to my mind, obviously pretty fresh after the RBC Canadian Open this week, where I had a chance to win. But those are definitely right on the top of the list.
There's not many people that can reach the pinnacle of something like the Olympics, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The Olympics was an amazing experience, and for me it was good fortune and good timing because golf hadn't been a part of the Olympic Games in 108 years when we came back. So it was pretty cool though when they had announced golf was going to be an Olympic game again, and to me it was very important because it was one of those things that when it became a part of the Olympic Games again, it was very easy for me to goal toward it. Like I had set a long-term goal. I said, listen, I obviously want to be back on the PGA Tour and I want to play good golf because I think they announced it in 2007 or 8, somewhere in there. And I was still on the Corn Ferry Tour trying to figure things out. But at that time, it gave me an opportunity to say, hey, this is a nice long-term goal. I want to be on that team. I want to be a part of it. I want to be an Olympian. And so not only was the Olympic Games an amazing experience, but what it gave me as a professional too was an amazing experience to be able to work towards something like that and to be able to achieve that. Again, it wasn't on our radar as a young golfer, but I can only imagine, a junior player now who's had a chance to watch when Graham and I were Olympians, or Elena and Brooke when they did it in 2016, and then now again with Corey and Mac on the Olympic team last time, and what their mindset will be like as a young player, as a junior player, how much they'll be able to achieve after having had that example. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Sure sounds like it. Well, I think you've kind of referred to some of this, but how's golf impacted your life?
Yeah, that is a very big and broad question, and you're right, I've touched on it a lot. I think like any athlete, you try not to let your sport define you as a person, but there's no doubt that it is a huge part of who you are. And I've achieved in life and in sport through what I've done in golf, the fundamentals and the principles that it's taught me, hard work and patience and perseverance and goal setting and all those things I can incorporate in the rest of my life, but I've learned it through golf. So I would say golf's given me, just about everything when you really look at it that way. I think sports in general do that for most people, and I think I'm sure you've had those experiences as well. It's just sports are an amazing thing, and it really brings people together. And I can't thank golf enough for what it's given me.
It's a neat perspective for sure. Well, what does it mean to you to be inducted into the Brantford Area Sports Hall of Recognition?
Yeah, I think it means a lot, and I think I think you were there. I obviously was a little bit emotional during the the speech, and I didn't expect that sort of emotion to come out of me, I guess. But it's one of those things. Again, like I was talking about the goals of the Olympic Games. You don't really set a goal in your mind when you're a young child to be inducted into a Hall of Recognition or a Hall of Fame, and these are accolades that kind of come with a lot of other achievements. And I think it means a lot to me. It means a lot to my family to be able to be recognized in that way. And I think, like I said in my acceptance speech, I certainly hope that me being in there can inspire my children or my family or anybody that's there to continue to try to be better and to try to take some of the principles that I brought to sport and pass that on and into themselves. And hopefully the achievement is truly something very special, and it's amazing to be in company like yourself and to be recognized in that way. It's not what I set out to do. I set out to try to achieve many other things, but like I say, I think it's pretty special. And when you look at, even just the other day, my kids are like, "Oh, when do we go get a chance to go take a look? When can we go down and see?" I was like, "Soon enough." So I think it means a lot to your family and to those people that supported you as well. So it's a pretty amazing honor, and I think that's why I did get a little bit emotional up there. You start to think about things like that, and you don't think about that when you're getting into professional sports or any sport in general.
Of course not, yeah. But yeah, I bet your kids are excited about seeing your display there, and I like to think of the Sports Hall in Brantford as a jewel in this area. It's really technology is really kind of tops, I think, and some of the displays we have in there are really amazing. So can't encourage people enough to get in to see it.
They've done an amazing job with it, and I've gone in there over the years a lot of times, and you just find yourself looking at it. And I think it's amazing that a community like ours has produced so many wonderful athletes, and there's something to that Brantford. We're very proud of our athletes, and we're very supportive of our athletes, and I think it shows when you go into that display over there to see how successful we can be with good community support. And,
sure.
It's they've done an amazing job with it.
Well, last question is, if you had to give some advice or wanted to give some advice to a young person, aspiring athlete, say, what would you say? Yeah,
I think I touched on this on my speech a little bit, that obviously everyone wasn't able to be there for, but the first thing is obviously you need to be well-rounded. I think it's important as a young person to be well-rounded. You shouldn't try to put all your eggs in one basket, whether it be education or sports or even just one sport. I think it's important to try to branch out and to be as good at as many things as you can be. You just don't know where you're going to be best. That being said, when you kind of find your vision and you find your passion and what you know is going to make you happy, don't be afraid to dream as big as you can. Like, you go for it. Like, set high goals and try to achieve amazing things. When you set those high goals, if you don't quite achieve them, you've still probably done something pretty amazing. And the piece that I touched on in my acceptance speech at the Hall of Recognition was, I think for me, it was always a journey and a quest to continue to be better every day. If I can be better today than I was yesterday, I think I'm getting somewhere. And every day isn't going to be better than the last day, but if you have that undivided attention and focus to your craft, that you try to be better every day, you're going to find that every year you get a little bit better, and then it keeps compounding, and you can see how far you can take sports. So that's what I would recommend to any athlete getting into their sport. Find what you love first of all, set high goals, and then once you set those high goals, do everything you can to achieve it, but just focus on the very simple idea of trying to get better every day. Every time you do it, every time you go to practice, every time you play or compete, just try to be better than the last time, and see how far you can go.
Great message.
Thanks.
Well, David, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us today and sharing some insights into who David Hearn really is. We're proud of you, and congratulations again for being inducted into the Brantford Area Sports Hall of Recognition.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's certainly one of the biggest honors that I've been given in my career, so thank you so much. I'm very proud to be a part of it, and I'll look forward to going through that hall, like we said earlier, for years to come, and being very proud of it. Thank you.
Good stuff. Well, thanks for checking out our video. I welcome you to check out other videos on our inductees at our YouTube channel or our website, brantfordareasportshall.ca. Better yet, we'd love to see you come down to the sports hall located at the Wayne Gretzky Sports Center. We hope to see you soon.